If your hero wears a white hat, you ain't heard nothing yet. Bass Reeves wore grit, not just a badge. He brought thunder to the outlaw trail. Born full-blooded Native American from the Creek and became a prisoner of war, Bass Reeves broke free, then broke the backs of lawless men across 75,000 square miles of badland. He wrangled every crook from horse thieves to murderers, racking up 4,000 arrests and a reputation that rode faster than his Winchester. Bass spoke 5 languages, talked his way in, and shot his way out. Outlaws tried him, bullets missed him, and legends followed in his shadow. He tracked down killers, even brought in his own son, because justice never took a day off. Never wounded, never bested, Bass's hat might have got shot off, but he stood tall every time. From runaway to the law west of the Mississippi, Bass Reeves wasn't just larger than life. He was the reason some men looked over their shoulder at night. Statues stand, stories echo, but the lesson's simple. When the world's wild, be the legend who tames it. Bass Reeves, July 1838, January 12, 1910, was a deputy U.S. Marshal, gunfighter, farmer, scout, tracker, railroad agent, and a runaway prisoners of war. Bass Reeves was a Muskogee whose family had been reclassified as blacks, Negroes, and colored. He spoke the languages of several Native American tribes including Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole, and his own language Creek. Reeves was one of the first dark-skinned Native American deputy U.S. Marshals west of the Mississippi River, mostly working in the deadly Indian Territory. The region was saturated with horse thieves, cattle rustlers, gunslingers, bandits, bootleggers, swindlers, and murderers. Reeves made up to 4,000 arrests in his lifetime, killing 20 men in the line of duty. Bass Reeves was a legendary black Native American lawman who served as a deputy U.S. Marshal in the Indian Territory, now Oklahoma, for over 3 decades. He was known for his exceptional skills in tracking, marksmanship, and his ability to speak several Native American languages, which made him highly effective in a diverse and often lawless region. Despite his significant accomplishments, his story has been largely overlooked in mainstream history. Reeves was born into war in Crawford County, Arkansas. His family were prisoners of war belonging to Arkansas State Legislator William Steele Reeves. During the American Civil War, his owners fought for the Confederacy. When Bass was 8, in about 1846, William Reeves moved to Grayson County, Texas, near Sherman in the Peters Colony. It appears plausible that Reeves was retained as a servant by William Steele Reeves's son, Colonel George R. Reeves, a Texan sheriff, legislator, and one-time Speaker of the Texas House of Representatives. At some point, Reeves escaped and fled to Indian Territory, where he learned the other American Indian languages and customs, as well as tracking and survival skills. He already spoke Creek. He eventually became a farmer and rancher. By 1875, Reeves was hired as a deputy U.S. Marshal, along with other individuals. He was 37 years old. Reeves was well acquainted with the Indian Territory and served there for over 32 years as a peace officer, covering over 75,000 square miles in what is now Oklahoma. He was involved in several tragedies during his lifetime. He accidentally shot his cook, William Leach, which led to the court case United States versus Bass Reeves, for which he was acquitted. His first wife, Jenny, died in 1896, and in 1902, he had to arrest his son, Benjamin "Benny" Reeves, who was charged with murdering his wife, Costella Brown. Benny was convicted and found guilty by a jury on January 22, 1903, in Muskogee. The presiding judge was C.W. Raymond. Benny was sentenced to the U.S. prison at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, for his natural life. Benny was released after 11 years in prison and lived out the rest of his life as a model citizen. Reeves encountered some of the most ruthless outlaws of his day. His weapons of choice were the Winchester models, 1873 and 1892. They were guns that conveniently fit dual-purpose handgun rifle cartridges. He also briefly used the 1873 Colt single-action .45 caliber Peacemaker. He tracked and killed notorious outlaw Jim Webb, who had murdered over 11 people. Another notorious desperado Reeves encountered was murderer and horse thief Wiley Bear. Reeves rounded him up along with his gang, which included John Simmons and Sam Lasley. Reeves was in a gunfight with the Creek desperado Frank Buck, whom he shot and killed. Reeves was immortalized in popular media, including TV shows, films, novels, poems, and books. He was also inducted into the Texas Trail of Fame. A bronze statue of Reeves was erected in Pendergraft Park in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and the Bass Reeves Memorial Bridge in Oklahoma was named after the legendary Lawman. A life-size statue of Reeves was erected and unveiled by the Three Rivers Museum on Saturday, January 11, 2025 in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Now this is the storyline they give us. When the American Civil War began, George Reeves joined the Confederate States Army, taking Bass with him. According to the Reeves family, at some time between 1861 and 1862, Bass attacked George Reeves following an argument during a poker card game. He escaped to Indian Territory, which is now Kansas and Oklahoma. Once there, he became acquainted with the other native tribes, learning their customs, languages, and tracking skills. They liked to play these games like Bass Reeves was a slave. No, Bass Reeves was a full-blooded Native American who people were reclassified and misclassified as blacks, Negroes, and colored people. Then later African Americans who were brought over as slaves. This is so far from the truth. They say the Emancipation Proclamation gave Reeves his freedom. As a freedman, Reeves returned to Arkansas and farmed near Van Buren. Reeves and his family farmed until 1875, when Isaac C. Parker was appointed federal judge for the Indian Territory. Parker appointed James F. Fagan as U.S. Marshal, directing him to hire 200 deputy U.S. Marshals. Fagan had heard about Reeves, who knew the territory and could speak several native languages. He recruited him as a deputy. Reeves, age 37, was among the first black deputies to serve west of the Mississippi River. Reeves was assigned as a deputy U.S. Marshal for the Western District of Arkansas, which had responsibility also for Indian Territory. He served there until 1893. That year, he transferred to the Eastern District of Texas in Paris, Texas, for a short while. In 1897, he was transferred again, serving at the Muskogee Federal Court in the Native Territory. Reeves worked for 32 years as a federal peace officer in the Indian Territory and became one of Judge Parker's most valued deputies. Reeves brought in some of the most dangerous fugitives of the time. He was never wounded despite having his hat and belt shot off on separate occasions. In addition to being a marksman with a rifle and revolver, Reeves developed superior detective skills during his long career. When he retired in 1907, Reeves had on his record thousands of arrests of felons, some accounts claiming over 3,000. According to his obituary, he killed 14 outlaws to defend his life. Reeves even had to arrest his son for murder. Benjamin "Benny" Reeves was charged with the murder of his wife. Despite the perpetrator being his son, Reeves insisted on the responsibility of bringing Benny to justice. Accounts of the incident report that Benny was captured by his father or turned himself in. He was ultimately tried and convicted, serving 11 years at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas before his sentence was commuted. He reportedly lived the rest of his life as a model citizen. When Oklahoma became a state in 1907, Reeves, then 68, became an officer of the Muskogee Police Department. He served for 2 years before he became ill and retired. Reeves was once charged with murdering a posse cook. At his trial before Judge Parker, Reeves claimed to have shot the man by mistake while cleaning his gun. He was represented by former United States Attorney W.H. Clayton, who was a colleague and friend. Reeves was eventually believed and acquitted, possibly based on his exceptional record. Reeves's health began to fail further after retiring. He died of Bright's disease, nephritis, on January 12, 1910. Reeves was married twice and had 11 children. In 1864, he married Nellie Jenny, d. 1896, and after her death, Winnie Sumter, 1900-1910. His children were named Newland, Benjamin, George, Lula, Robert, Sally, Edgar, Bass Jr., Harriet, Homer, and Alice. He was a great-uncle of Paul L. Brady, who became the first black man appointed as a federal administrative law judge in 1972. His great-great-grandson is former National Football League and Canadian Football League player Willard Reeves. His great-great-great-grandsons are National Hockey League player Ryan Reeves and CFL player Jordan Reeves. Ryan Reeves's grandfather changed the family name from Reeves to Reeves. This claim has not been verified by historians and/or genealogists. Reeves is credited with capturing more than 3,000 fugitives over his long career, and his methods for tracking and capturing horse thieves and murderers were legendary. To catch 2 outlaws, both brothers, near the Red River, Reeves set up camp 28 miles from the fugitives' home. After studying the terrain, Reeves disguised himself as a tramp before venturing out on the long journey by foot. When he arrived, he asked the bandit's mother if he could spend the night. The 2 fugitives arrived that evening, greeted Reeves, and went to sleep. While they slumbered, Reeves handcuffed the siblings before booting them awake and marching them off to jail, much to the chagrin of the fooled mother. Reeves' jurisdiction covered more than 75,000 square miles. The deputy marshal and his team, often a cook, possiman, and a stocked wagon, launched outings from Fort Smith, Arkansas, where they would head west to Fort Reno, Fort Sill, and Anadarko, often through a round trip of more than 800 miles. Once the bounty was collected on his caught fugitives, Reeves would return to his wife and children in Fort Smith. Reeves once quipped, "Maybe the law ain't perfect, but it's the only one we got, and without it, we got nothing." Reeves is credited with tracking and arresting more than 3,000 outlaws, often working alone. The deputy marshal was a skilled gunman, and on several occasions he fatally shot fugitives in self-defense. Following his death in 1910, Reeves was eulogized by newspaper. Reeves was the front rank among those who cleansed out the old Indian territory of outlaws and desperados. The Lone Ranger radio and television series closely mimics the real-life story of Reeves. And while there's no direct evidence that creators of the popular black and white Western series had Reeves in mind, the fictionalized character shares much in common with the real-life deputy marshal. Both lawmen rode with a possiman, sidekick. Reeves worked and was well acquainted with Native Americans just as the Lone Ranger was. Both men hailed from Texas and scoured the Wild West looking for outlaws. For many, those connections are enough.